Hey guys, what's going on? I haven't done the video in a little bit, been a little busy, but had some time tonight, so I wanted to go ahead and make one. I recently just got back from a trip in Georgia, fishing with a couple of buddies of mine up there, and I mean, what can I say? It's Georgia, the redfish were everywhere. Now, that being said, redfish were everywhere, but they were only eating a select type of bait, and we're going to kind of go through in this video a little bit about what baits to throw if you throw artificials like I pretty much religiously do, what baits to throw, and sometimes when you have to resort to throwing live bait, which in this case yesterday when I went, that's what the case was. They weren't eating any kind of artificial I threw them. I threw everything I've ever thrown at a redfish, and they've eaten, and these fish wouldn't eat it. However, they were gorging themselves on little small fry and little small mud minnows. So, that being said, let's get into it. Now, everybody knows when I post a video, I dip. So we're about to pack dip spit. Again, I say in almost all my videos, I don't condone chewing tobacco, especially if you're under 18. But anyway, I'm not saying go out and dip, but if you do dip, have one with me. Go ahead and get the rest of it. There's not much left. Alrighty. Alright, y'all. So, when I fish for redfish, which I do all the time, like I said, I pretty much religiously throw artificials. I don't like throwing live bait. There's really nothing else I like to throw other than artificial. So, I could make an hour-long video on baits and situations and jig heads and leaders and knots and all that, but it would take forever to upload, and you guys would probably get bored watching it. So, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can, but as informative as I can. And I'm going to go over some of my favorite baits to throw to them, whether it's here in the marsh or back home down south where I grew up in like the Tampa Bay area on the flats, in the mangroves, everything. So let's get into it. So, mainly we're going to talk about, put a couple up here, I guess. Mainly we're going to talk about soft plastics because that's 90% of what I throw in the marsh here. So, the first bait I'm going to talk about is this lure right here. Okay? This is a company called Quigglers out of Texas. They're I'm on a pro staff membership with them. They make great baits. Super durable. The plastic, the rubber material is extremely hard, which is nice because when you put a jig head on, the jig head doesn't fall off. Even after 4 or 5 fish, it still sits in the same spot where it needs to be, which is very important to me. I hate having to make a cast and then reel up and put the jig head back on, make another cast, reel up, put the jig head back on. So I throw this color right here a lot in the marsh, the root beer with the little chartreuse tail. They love that here in Jacksonville, especially with the dirty water. So there's several different ways you can use this bait. What I like to do when I fish for redfish here in the marsh is usually I fish them on low tide, which I think is the best time to fish them. And what I'll do is basically I'll be in my kayak, I'll be standing up, and I'll wait until I see a red blow up on the bank. And when I see one blow up, all I do is just make a cast to where that fish blew up, twitch it a couple times, and 9 times out of 10 they eat it. That fish is so fired up, and he runs up on that bank so fast, eats whatever he wants to eat. He's gonna keep hanging around. So I'll fire a bait to him real quick, twitch it, stick him. But that bait right there has caught me a lot of redfish in the marsh. Trout as well, but tons of reds. Now, Quigglers makes another kind of bait. That's just a 4-inch paddle tail. Or maybe a 3-inch paddle tail, excuse me. They make a bait called a willow tail. that I really, really like a lot. This thing slays big trout in Texas. Redfish too, but the boys in Texas throw these for huge trout and they catch tons of them. Now here in Florida, in Jacksonville, we've got some big trout. We don't have Texas-sized trout, but we got some big trout. 25, 26 inches. And you know, they get bigger, but most of them that I've been getting when I catch trout are anywhere from that 13-inch to 20. Every once in a while here in the marsh, I'll get a 24, 25, or 26. But this video is mainly about redfish. So this tail right here has a crazy action to it. All you have to do is, barely even twitch your rod tip, and this tail does all kinds of crazy stuff. So with very little action, there's a lot of action with this bait. You can see just wiggling it, that tail just goes nuts and it fires the fish. They make a variety of colors. This is the bone diamond, I want to say this is called. I got a couple more boxes. They make, if you want to check them out, go to quigglerslures.com. They make tons of lures, lots of colors. This is just one of my preferred colors to throw here in the marsh. Now, there are times where the redfish are so focused on eating smaller baits, smaller profile baits, that you really have to downsize your lures. To where sometimes I'll throw this at a redfish that just blew up on the bank and he won't eat it. And I'll throw it at him again, I'll throw it another one again, I'll throw another one again, and they won't touch it. They're so focused on eating those small little baits, nothing else is going to make a difference. So, when that happens, I'll switch it up and I'll throw a smaller profile. So, there's a company, I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, called Z-Man out of South Carolina. Z-Man make incredible lures. I've got some. They stretch like crazy. You can use I've used the same lure all day long. But anyway, so sometimes you have to downsize, and I'll downsize to a bait like this. Okay, and all that is, this is a little diesel swimming minnow. Okay, a little diesel minnow is what it's called. And it's about a 3-inch bait, 2.5-inch bait, something like that. Very, very small profile. This is the bloodworm color, and I like it because it mimics a little mud minnow or little bloodworm, even a little finger mullet. So they love this. I'll throw this at them first. Now, if they still don't hit that, which I've had them do, I'll downsize even more to this right here, which is a Z-Man again. Okay, but it's called a pogie. And what this mimics, this is the pinfish color. What this mimics is a little pinfish, a little finger mullet. I'm sure they think it's a little mud minnow too. I've caught tons of reds on this in the marsh as well, especially when I have to downsize. When they're not eating this, if you look at the difference, there's a big difference in the profile. Okay, or even this. That little difference right there, man, it makes all the difference in the world sometimes. Now, when they still won't eat this, which there's been times where they won't eat it, I'll downsize even more. And you may say, well, how much farther down can you go? I'll downsize to that right there. Okay? And what this is a brand new bait from Z-Man. It's called the Slim Swim. And this is a tiny little bait. It's a 2-inch bait. Okay? If you look at it in the palm of my hand, or next to my pointer finger, it's a little itty bitty bait. Same thing, still stretches like crazy. Now with these, the problem with these sometimes though is you have to find a small enough jig head to fit them. In the marsh, especially on low tide, I throw a 16th ounce jig head anyway, so I'll look for a little small jig head. Quigglers makes, when they sent me all my baits and sent me my jig heads as well, they make some jig heads that are small enough to fit this. So I'll put a little 16th ounce jig head on here. I'll throw that in the marsh, and when they're not eating this, which hardly ever is the case, but there's been several occasions where they won't eat that, they won't eat that, they won't eat that, and they won't eat the pogie, I'll throw the little Slim Swim. Mimics a little glass minnow, a little mud minnow on the bank. and they can't resist it. Now, and most of this is all sight fishing that I do. Now, here in Jacksonville, we've got a lot of small shrimp that come in that get flushed in with the tides. So, what I'll do sometimes, when I get to the marsh in the morning and I'll see shrimp flicking up on the bank, I'll put on a little Z-Man shrimp. Same thing, all their baits stretch, okay? I'll either hook it through the nose, the front of the head, and run a little hook out the back on a jig head, or, sorry, I'll take a weighted hook, alright, with a keel weight, and I'll rig it through the tail and bring the top of the hook out the back, and then just bury the point a little bit in the skin on the back like that, okay? And what that'll do is, when I pop that shrimp, people don't, I mean, not everybody knows this, but when a shrimp's in the water and the shrimp is scared, they flick back. I can't even hold on to the damn hook. They flick back. They don't flick forward. So a lot of times, I've thrown a bait to this bait to a redfish and popped it up. Okay, popped it up off the bottom like that. Sometimes they won't touch it, so I'll just reel it back in, keel weight it, bring it to the back, and hop it up off the bottom, and it jumps back out of the grass or off the oyster bed, and they light it up. Now, if I want to throw a top water, I'll throw a spook or a like a top pup or a top dog, something that has that little rattle, those ball bearings in it. Sometimes if I want to go subsurface, if I feel like if they're really munching on, if they're running finger mullet or they're running shad, I'll throw a Miridine. This is the little Miridine customs from Paul Brown Lures. Okay. Now let's talk about some of the tackle that I like to use. So, little 3,000 size reel. Okay. A little medium light or medium action rod. This is a Waterloo. Now, there's also a bait I use. I actually have it on here. I was throwing it up there in Georgia. This is a little Savage Gear shrimp, little itty bitty shrimp. Okay, on a little 16th ounce jig head. Okay, I'll throw that to them sometimes when they're being really, really finicky and they're only eating small profile baits. All right. So, 10-pound braid, 25-pound Seagull fluorocarbon leader. You know, textbook standard rig to throw for redfish and trout. Now, I don't really like I was saying in the beginning of the video, I don't really like to throw meat at them. I don't like throwing bait to them. But sometimes, like in Georgia yesterday, we had to resort to it because they wouldn't touch anything. They wouldn't touch that. They wouldn't touch any of the profiles I threw at them. So, I broke down, went over to the dark side, and all I did was rig up a little 2-aught circle hook, okay, some 25-pound fluorocarbon leader, 2500 size Stratic, you know, medium action stick, little Waterloo rod, okay, and basically all we were doing was taking, let's pretend this is a mud minnow. We're taking the mud minnows and rigging them right to the lips, just like that. Putting a little piece of split shot on them, or free lining them out, or even putting them on a popping cork and just pitching them in the marsh to these redfish, and we caught a ton of them. So, short video I know, but simple rigs to go out and catch yourself a bunch of redfish. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to drop a comment. Check out my Instagram page at TaylorMade, TaylorMade_Fishing1993. Hit me up on there. I've got a lot of questions, a lot of people. I'll try and get back to you. I'm usually pretty good at getting back to people. So, but look out for another video coming up at the end of the week on Friday. And I'm going to do some fishing this week, so I will let you guys know how I did and show you guys the stuff I use on that latest trip, or the next trip I take. Alright guys, take care. Bye.